heard the week before. I want to hear about the islands, about pirates and rum. Don't want to think about tomorrow, not until tomorrow comes. So barmaid, play me some Buffett. I'm in the mood to get away. So pour me a vacation. I need to leave here right away. I gotta get down by the ocean. If it's only in my mind, take me out to paradise. If only for tonight, I can leave it all behind.
And then just change up for the last 4 years. But then it's going to happen. That's right. Sheriff.
You made it back in time.
Yes, ma'am. See how far down I go? But I gotta thank them for lunch.
Yes.
Here we go. Where's my whistle at? That kind of got everybody's attention. Thank you all for coming back. That means a lot. The last thing I would like would be to be your new president and have nobody show up. So I'd like to thank Callaway, Dorsey, K. Miller, Goodman, and Seaside Terrace for, I guess, our buffet lunch. And we're going to start the general session. And greetings from the Secretary and update on public safety. The Honorable Terrence C. Cole, Secretary of Public Safety, Homeland Security of the Commonwealth of Virginia. Would you be so kind to come up?
Try to use this mic. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes. All right. Thank you for the warm welcome. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with the men and women that do the job every day. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your support. Thank you for what you do for the Commonwealth. Okay? It means a lot to me to stand here with our true heroes, and I mean that. I've had the pleasure to meet with your organization 5 times? 5 times. And I've been here 5 months. So you know how important this is. I want to congratulate the winners from last night. Are they here? The winners from last night from the Deputy of the Year, Dispatcher of the Year, and our Valor Award winner. Are they here by chance? Not here? Well, I was reading their story. You're here? Yes, ma'am? Congratulations. When I was doing my research, I was just amazed to read about the accomplishments and the dedication of the men and women that are doing the job, and especially of those that were recognized last night. I want to start with a sad story to begin with. And the sad story is the open border. The sad story is the 7,500 to 8,000 people that are crossing every day. I understand part of that is humanitarian. I understand people are looking for a better life. But this country does have rules. This country does have borders. And what you deal with daily is part of that chaos. We have to recognize that. We have to remember that our men and women that are there providing a service to our community are faced with this daily. And the amount of terrorists that are coming across the border is concerning as well. We should all be concerned about it. This is a local, state, federal, national security issue. And I bring that up because it is real. There are bad people, bad actors, that are crossing daily to do us harm, to destroy our great country. So I open with that because our team is focused on what can we do better? How can we do things better in the Commonwealth? How can we help every city, municipality, officer, sheriff, chief, county administrator understand what we are dealing with? The amount of fentanyl that is destroying our community, the amount of human trafficking that is destroying our community and lives, in the cyber threats that we encounter in the Commonwealth every day are astronomical. So that's the bad. The good is you all. You stand for something. You stand for the rule of law. You stand for your people, your community, and the Commonwealth. But the job you do every day is important. So one of the things I am dedicated, our office is dedicated to, is how can we better pay our men and women that are doing the job? How can we compensate them better? What officer wellness programs can we put forward? How can we impact their lives? How can we show a gratitude of thanks for the service that they provide? It's a tough job. It's a job that I'm committed to. It's a job that I more than happily meet with your board about. You can meet all you want, but unless you got action, unless you have conviction and purpose and mission, be mission driven to address some of these issues, it's just words. So the time now is to act. The time now is to act. The governor is fully supportive of law enforcement. The governor is fully supportive of the initiatives that are taking place. I know there's going to be a distribution of some more 599 money. I know there's going to be a distribution of some more ARPA money that's going to go out. And I know Jackson's going to talk about some initiatives here in a little bit. But from my office, my secretariat, whether it's VSP, whether it's VDEM, whether it's DOC or DJJ, we are fully committed to a secretariat approach of helping your community. If you need help, call me. The sheriffs in here that have called me already, ask them if we respond. If I don't respond, I'm not doing my job, and I need to be held accountable. Me. If my team doesn't respond to a question or an inquiry that you have, they will be held accountable. I have a seasoned team of law enforcement professionals police officers, first responders that are here to serve. And if they're not here to serve, they can find another job. I hate to be that way, but that's just the way it is. So I would like to ask you, what questions do you have of me? What can I do better? What can our office do better? Somebody's got to have a question. If you have forums, you have roundtables, you need experts, you want us to come participate, you want us to talk to councilmen, women, administrators, call us. We're happy to come. We're happy to participate. On Friday, I'll have my 6th trip down to the Southwest part of the state. I'll be in Lee, Wise County to visit the men and women that are doing the job and to listen to their concerns. Somebody hit me with a question, please. Anybody? Oh, here we go. I see somebody putting his coffee down.
The only thing I want to say is, so Terry and I know each other back from our DEA days, and we're having a fentanyl forum next week, and we had a very good turnout. Last time we did it last year, we have people from all over. We have healthcare folks, mental health therapists. We have people from HIDA. DEA is going to be there. Terry will be there from his office here. And so I can tell you that when you ask for some help, they're there. They're going to help out. So when he says that, if you need any help, you need any assistance, you need anybody to reach out to our community, to your community, he's there for you, and he'll help you with that. So I do appreciate you coming out there.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Sir, got a question for me? I love it. Yes, sir.
I'm Sheriff Ken Solid of Virginia Beach, and I wanted to go into the fact that the federal law is preemptive in this with the state law, and so the federal law said that we can only arrest for someone who's been convicted of a felony and they've been in the country illegally, and then we can do the 287G program, which I think is a terrible program. But since federal law is preemptive, what can you do? What authority do we have to do anything at all? And you know, until they streamline the deportation process, we're not going to have any effect on this. And so, you know, I'm getting ready to retire, but I'd like to know what you expect us to do when we come in contact with these aliens that we know are aliens, but we can't do anything. If we do anything, they're not going to do anything at the federal level. And can you answer that?
Absolutely. And first off, Sheriff, is it 42 years of service?
It's 43 years.
43 years of service. I did my homework. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I did my homework. I was off by a year. I knew the sheriff was going to be here, and the party's October 1st, right?
That's right.
All right, so I did do my homework, and I'm coming.
All right, good.
And I believe the governor's coming.
He is.
He is. And
I'd like to invite everybody here to come down for it if they want to come down.
sounds like we're all coming back for another party. But 40 plus years of dedicated service, not only to his community, his commonwealth, and I'm sure many more years to his faith. So in reference to your question, these are difficult questions, difficult times, but we always have to refer back to our federal partners to actually do their job. And we have to hold them accountable. Sometimes they're not willing because of policies that are coming out of DC, but more than likely, those federal partners are going to try to help you. It's a delicate subject when you're dealing with removal. It's a delicate subject when you're dealing with your federal partners. But if you get the right people that are willing and committed to follow through where they possibly can, they will help you. I know that's a roundabout way of trying to put it back on the federal government. It's not doing anything about an open border right now. But we all know this job is based on so many professional relationships and our development and how we deal with people, that there are different ways that people can handle that. So
Thank you very
thank
much.
you for your
I got
service.
one other question.
I love it. Go ahead, sir.
The problem I see it is that even if they want to help, they're restricted in the information they can give us. I think the last time in Virginia Beach we had aliens in our jail, or foreigners in our jail, they wouldn't even tell us if it was a civil or criminal hold on them. You know, the agents themselves signed the hold, not a magistrate. And there's a California ruling on that says that you can't hold those people. So if they're not going to tell us whether they're a civil hold or a criminal hold, how do we protect ourselves when we get sued for violating the law for holding somebody civil in a criminal jail? Is there something you guys can work on? Is that something you guys can work on?
I will look into it, and I'd love to work with you and your team on something on that.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you for your professionalism and your dedication, sir.
Thank you.
You see, and that's what I love about the questions, because it's something new I'll learn every time when it comes to dealing with the different removals, the different processes that are in place. And sometimes it's easy to say something, but more importantly, how do we follow up on it? How do we work together? And how do we try to find a solution for the Commonwealth? Who's got something? Another question? Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yes, we've been to several trainings with the Attorney General office and whatnot about human trafficking and whatnot up in Northern Virginia. So you guys are part of that? You guys help out with that? Where are you guys at?
Absolutely. So the question was, he's been to numerous trainings in reference to human trafficking in Northern Virginia, correct? In Attorney General's office. So the Attorney General's office and our office have a very strong relationship. We currently work with HSI with their different human trafficking groups, VSP regarding Object Intercept, correct? Have a specialized group assigned to human trafficking. There's the Northern Virginia Human Trafficking, and HSI also has a human trafficking group here in the Hampton Roads area. So there is a strong federal partnership with those initiatives that are taking place. There are federal grants in reference to human trafficking, and we do have a state coordinator in Jackson's office, DCJS, and there's a state coordinator also in the Attorney General's office. So there is a three-prong approach. The First Lady is very engaged with human trafficking as well, and we currently work with 32 NGOs in reference to placement of people that are encountered that are involved in human trafficking. And we've had 6 different coordination meetings in Richmond with the different NGOs to try to funnel money to them, because the shelters are in dire need of money. Once somebody's encountered, they believe to be part of human trafficking or being human smuggled, they have to go to a state place, and a safe place, that is, as we work through the process.
Yeah, 'cause that was the thing they were saying, this year or whatever's happening to a lot of money being, obviously utilized for that.
Yes. And I'd love to talk to you afterwards, give you my card, and I'm sure Jackson will follow up with you as well to help you with any questions, any trainings, or how you can get involved. But great question. Thank you for that. Yes, sir.
On the issue of ARPA monies,
Yes, sir.
I asked if maybe you all would take a look at that. The last round of ARPA monies was a little problematic when it allowed localities to supplant. So if you all would please take a look at that. I appreciate it.
Yeah, so I will let Jackson, did you hear the question, Jackson? It's about ARPA?
I didn't quite hear the question.
Yeah, so
Problematic.
the money was about ARPA money.
Localities to supplant. If a sheriff is, I'm working with a locality that loves to use those funds to supplant, and that was the issue for us.
Are you talking about the SRO grants or the ARPA grants?
ARPA specifically.
I believe our guidelines are you can use it for any training or equipment that you needed in your locality.
But it allowed our county to supplant those funds. I mean,
Great question, Sheriff, and there will be another round of those fundings coming out. Yeah. Anything else? Yes, sir. Oh, boy.
Back in 2020, 21, we were all under attack, defund, the whole 9 yards. ICE was under attack too. And I was just speaking with our hero from yesterday about that this morning. On the 24-hour detainer, 72-hour detainer, when we had an illegal in the jail, ICE was Johnny on the spot. They were right there from Roanoke, picked them up, gone. Whatever happened to ICE? Because we haven't seen them since then.
Yeah, great question. I think ICE has turned into the ERO, which are just sheltering people around the states and around the country. So less ICE activity, more sheltering, transport of illegals that are coming across the border. So it went from enforcement to administrative stuff, 100%. Anybody else? Happy to answer any questions about Mexico, Central America. Is my last duty post. Before I retired, I was in charge of all of Mexico, all of Central America, all of Canada. Happy to talk about anything Mexico. Corruption, fentanyl, methamphetamine, cocaine, you name it, human trafficking, cartel groups. Any question? Guns going south, money going south, super labs. What's coming behind fentanyl? What's coming behind tranq? Any questions regarding the Mexicans are already planning the next level of assault to come to the United States. And if you think about the progression, 70s, it was marijuana. Into the 80s, late 80s, turned into cocaine. Then it turned into methamphetamine. Then it turned into heroin. Then it turned back to methamphetamine. Then we had the pill epidemic here in the States. Then it turned back to heroin. Now we're at fentanyl. Now we see tranq coming. There's a proto that they're calling it that's coming after that. And they're already developing the next drug currently in Mexico that's going to come to the United States. So when we talk about the national security concerns, I started this out, we talk about an open border. We talk about the creativity of what we're dealing with. These guys are more ruthless. They're more organized. They're better funded. They don't play by the rules. We play by the rules. In the early 2000s, I was in Bogota, Colombia for 6 years during the cocaine epidemic in the States. The Colombians don't hold anything on the Mexicans. The Mexicans are now the masters. Everything goes through Mexico that comes to the U.S., including the 160,000 precursor chemical plants in China. Can you imagine that? 160,000 precursor chemical plants that are producing precursor chemicals that are going into Mexico for the poison that's coming into the United States. You talk about state-sponsored terrorism, and you hook them up with what we're dealing with in Mexico, corrupt government, open border, billion-dollar business, trillion-dollar customer here in the U.S. Deadly cocktail that we're seeing daily. Anything on Mexico? I was in Afghanistan for 2 years. Talk about Afghanistan, how they deal with Al-Qaeda, how they deal with what we're seeing here in the U.S. as well. Sir, I love it. Go ahead, sir.
When you're talking about this stuff coming over from Mexico and whatnot, I know we all been in law enforcement.
Yeah.
Have an idea about how this is. We're up here because of so much we can do. Like, how they get in most of it? Boats, planes, people driving the car, like, how's that happen?
You know that great movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles? Any way that they can get it here, that's the way it's coming. It's any way. So you see the ports, they're taking advantage of the ports. I'm concerned about Norfolk, right? The amount of containers that come in Norfolk. And if you look at what the published rates are, of what's the percentage of containers that are screened Once they arrive in the United States, it's in the low teens, if we're lucky. So, how many tons are coming in every day? When we were in Mexico, it wasn't you would go to a lab, methamphetamine lab, been about 100 labs just in Mexico, and there would be production of 3,000 to 5,000 pounds a week of methamphetamine. So in 2014, 2015, the Mexicans decided to switch from mass production, commercial production of methamphetamine, to fentanyl. So they took all that infrastructure, everything set up, and they just converted their labs. So that's why we see record amounts of pills coming into the U.S. We see record amounts of fentanyl coming into the U.S. They are the masters of the business plan. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, Mr. Secretary, Sheriff Warren, Roanoke County. I've got a question about the makeup of the commissions of the boards for juvenile detention centers. And I'd like you guys to look at that, possibly talk to our delegates about legislation that relates to that. I don't know if everybody deals with it, but I know in our locality, our commission is made up solely of representatives from the finance department of each locality. So the way the code currently reads is that each commission will be made up of a representative from that locality, from a member body. And so in Roanoke, or for Roanoke County, Roanoke City, all those who are served, a lot of time, everybody has just sent someone from their finance department, because all they talk about is finance. We had an issue arise about a year and a half ago, our judges were kind of up in arms, so they made us think about it, and so I reached out to our board, and I was assigned, but I'm the only representative of law enforcement that sits on our commission for our local juvenile detention center. And so I go in there, and I have 5 others that are just finance minded, and that's great for the budget. We're talking about capital projects, we're talking about security measures, we're talking about accountability for staff, we're talking about that stuff. They have absolutely no clue whatsoever. And so I don't know if any other locality experiences that, but I know it's extremely frustrating for our courts, for our juvenile domestic relations courts and the judges there, because they feel like if there's no adequate representation sitting on those commissions, when the issues arise, there's no real accountability there. And so if you all can maybe talk to the House and Senate, possibly look at that legislation and see if there was some word changes. Because with our regional jail boards, all the sheriffs sit on those. But with our juvenile detention centers, it doesn't read that way. It just allows for anybody to put on. And so the localities just decide to stick to it with one. And if others are doing the same thing, they don't have representation.
Yeah, I'd love to work with you on that in your team, especially with our team from DJJ. I'd love to work with you on that, to see what legislative things we can push forward, or if it's something that we can just do internal. But I'd love to, let's get together before I depart to head back and exchange information, and I can get together with Amy, our director, Floriano, and we can get working on that together. Yes, sir. Great question. Thank you for that. Anything else? Give me a couple more, and then I'll let you get to the other stuff. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, so the question was, have we seen human trafficking increase in the Commonwealth or just this area? In the Commonwealth, we have seen an uptick. We've seen a tremendous uptick with not only cases for sex labor and labor. And I think part of that is generated by that open border. We've all seen the migrants that come across with the bracelets, the different colored bands that they put on, represent which cartel they came from and how much they had to pay. So, and that's significant, is really significant. It helps us identify if it's Sinaloa, CJNG, Gulf Cartel, if it's the Zetas. But what happens is there's a debt that they have to pay. So while that person comes across, they're working off sending that money back. And that debt is not paid until the cartel decides. So the original contract could be $10,000 to smuggle them across, but over the lifetime of paying that back, it could be $20,000 to $25,000. The cartel decides when that debt is paid. And what happens is that minor that's smuggled across is that part of that equation. There's close to 400,000 minors. We don't even know where they are, according to the federal government. 400,000. We're not sure where they are. And that's just a small number. So that's a great question. Thank you for that. Anybody else? So my last alibi is we're fortunate enough to have 2 past secretaries here. Where's Mr. Moran? You say you're going to echo me? You stand up, please, sir. Thank you for your service. Secretary Mosier, you stand up, please. You guys are in good hands. You got great leadership, great passion, great purpose, and I'm happy to be part of your team. And that's what this is. I'm happy to take the hard questions. I am happy to take the lumps. I'm happy to carry the message back because I know how hard your job is. I know how hard you work because I've been there and I've participated in it. But more important, I'm 4th generation. I believe in this mission. I believe in the good men and women that are doing the job. I want to help you with the tools, legislative tools. I want to help you with the pay. I want to help you with the officer wellness. I want to help you with the retirement. But I need to have that relationship, that open communication, to make sure that I am putting forward the needs to the governor. So with that, thank you so much for the invite. Truly appreciate it. I'll be out in the hall for a little bit if anybody wants to stop out. Have a bunch of cards. Love to give you some cards. Please call me. Please email me. And my team is here to serve. So thank you. Be safe. Enjoy this beautiful event. I'm glad to see everybody here. And thank you for the opportunity to come and say hello. Our office is open, and as the governor always says every morning, let's go to work. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cole. I greatly appreciate it. Now I'd like to invite Mr. Jackson Miller. He's the director of the Department of Criminal Justice Services up here. Was appointed by Governor Glenn Youngkin as the director of Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services in April of 2022. He's a former law enforcement officer and a former member of the Virginia House of Delegates. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Again, it's a pleasure to be here again with you this year. I'd like to start off by first saying on behalf of Governor Youngkin, he wishes he could be here today. You all are honestly, I'm not just saying this because every group says it, he says about every group, you're honestly one of his favorite groups of people in the Commonwealth. I can assure you that. I don't think we've ever had a governor that loves law enforcement as much as Governor Youngkin, and I served under and with a lot of governors. So, but as you can imagine, his schedule is incredibly busy, and so he just can't make every event. But he did want me to say that he wishes he could be here. But of course, his governor's duties have him all over the state with all sorts of different groups. When I looked at the program, I saw that I would be going right behind Secretary Cole, so I knew my time would get cut into dramatically. I promise you that I will get, Mr. President, I promise you I'll get us caught up. I'll be very brief. I just want to give you all a few updates, what's going on at DCJS, what's been going on in state government. I know all of you saw that the budget came out about 2 weeks ago. Probably one of the bigger concerns this group saw in that budget was that the House had $1 million for the regional academies. The Senate had $500,000 in the regional academies before they went into conference. When they came out of conference with the agreed-to budget, there was nothing for the regional academies. We've reached out to both the House and Senate finance committees to find out, our appropriations committees to find out exactly what happened there. It was just one of those things, unfortunately, and it happens. I know that's not a very good excuse. It's not something the governor was happy about or appreciative of, but the governor was faced with a situation where the conferees for the House and the Senate finally came together with a budget a very, very, on very, very tenuous terms, the governor's choice was to sign it and or amend it and bring them back to Richmond to agree to amendments. It's such a tenuous thing that it was not worth risking that falling apart, the entire state budget over, and it wasn't just the regional academy money not being in there. There's several things that got dropped out by the legislature, but it does happen. To let you know, we are looking at we're trying to figure out a possible grant solution at DCJS as a stopgap measure to help the academies for a year and a half. But one of the problems is our regional academies are just struggling because the special funds that fund the regional academies have dropped so dramatically since the 2020 legislative special session that I call the anti-law enforcement session that the legislature held. A couple things we're moving forward with as legislative proposals this year that I know you all will find important is again, most of the stuff did come out of that special 2020 anti-law enforcement, the special session in 2020. One of those was the decertification process. In 2019, we had 6 officers that were decertified, that were sent for decertification. In 2022, we had 114. When the standards of conduct, which are working their way through the regulatory process now, when they come out, those numbers will go up. So we do have some legislation in. Worked quite a bit with Sheriff Hines on this because we had some issues at DCJS when he had a decertified deputy that came through. We're working on some legislative fixes for that. Another one is the model versus uniform lesson plans. As you all recall, in the 2020 anti-law enforcement special session, the legislature created a law that said we will create uniform lesson plans, which literally just does not fit the Commonwealth because different agencies and different academies have differences in how they do training, especially as it applies to their region. We are asking for a simple code change there where we change the word uniform to model. I don't think there's anyone in this room that would disagree with that. What I am asking you is you guys represent every corner of this state. You guys represent both political parties in here, many of you independents, but many of you Democrats, many of you Republicans. Please go back and talk to your state senators about this bill. Let them understand that the idea of uniform lesson plan is not a good idea for all of our academies across the Commonwealth, but that a model plan is perfect. That way each academy can follow the model, but then do additional things on top of it that they feel represents their region. So please talk to your state senators about that. You will see that legislation coming forward. I was going to talk a little bit about accreditation in VSA, but Tina Sumner, stand up for a moment. She's one of our newer members at DCJS. She's been assigned to VSA to help you guys that are accredited to keep your accreditation, and for those that would like to get accredited to help you work through that process. She's going to speak a little later, so I don't want to steal her thunder. And then we had the job task analysis on courtroom security and civil process. I know that's a very big issue for you guys in here. We've gone back and done another job task analysis. If anyone has any questions about that, we heard you last year at this event and from your phone calls throughout the year about concerns you had with that. We listened to those. We went back and addressed them. Had another job task analysis done. Harvey, would you stand up for a minute? For any of you guys that have questions after the event today, feel free to reach out to myself or Harvey. Harvey knows it better than I do, but I think both of us can probably answer your basic questions. Other than that, again, we are here to serve you. We are here to help law enforcement as your assistant. We are a service support agency. We're a regulatory agency, but we are also there to support you, to support your mission, and to make your mission work smoother and better. So just like the secretary said, my phone line's always open, my email's open, my door's open. If there's any time you guys need something from me, have some concerns about DCJS or what you think DCJS may have done wrong or right, I want you to always know that I am open to listen. And I'm open even more so to come out to your jurisdiction and visit your agency, visit your people, and again, help in any way we can. So with that being said, I think I can finish it up unless anyone has any quick questions for me. Yes, sir.
With the gap that you're talking about with the regional academies, I've got to go back this Friday and vote because the money is not there for
I wish I could tell you I did have something. We are literally scrambling the jets right now, trying to figure out what we can do, scratching money together from DCGS, possibly getting a Burn Jag federal grant for training. No, I cannot give you an answer. I wish I could.
Make sure that, you know, when you're talking about this, that this burden is going back to the localities now, and we're trying to scramble to figure out.
Exactly, and the whole idea, and what's the most disappointing part about the legislature is the whole idea of the regional academy system was that the Commonwealth would pay a significant share of the training. And that's why when local academies want to separate from the regional and set up their own academy, that's why one of the first requirements, as Harvey taught me, one of the very first requirements to set up your own academy is you promise the Commonwealth of Virginia that we will fund every little bit of it. We will not take a penny from the Commonwealth of Virginia for our academy. So it literally is the Commonwealth of Virginia's job to help fund our regional academies. And the fact of the matter is the 11 regionals compared to the 26, 27 or so locals, the 11 regionals train, a lot of you might not know this, but if you haven't served on your boards, you won't know this. The 11 regionals train about 70% of the LEOs in the Commonwealth of Virginia. 70%, that's a huge number. And they're literally the most, with maybe the exception of Northern Virginia, the most underfunded academies in the Commonwealth. So it is incredibly important to us because our mission, one of our primary missions, is law enforcement training. And we want it to be excellent, and we want it to be best in class. That's one of Governor Youngkin's big sayings. He wants every one of his agencies to be best in class. So we want Virginia law enforcement training to be best in class. We want it to be the model of the nation. And underfunding the 11 academies that train 70% of our LEOs is not best in class. The governor recognizes this. We recognize it at DCGS, and we are scrambling to try to find a solution right now. Your academy directors, I've been in touch with Tommy Bauer. She's the director of Skyline, who's now the chairman of the Regional Academy Association. I've been in contact with her over the last week numerous times to work on a plan where we can hopefully help all 11 regionals a little bit. Thank you. Yes, sir. So, unless there's anything else, thank you for your time, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be around the rest of this evening. There's a question in the back. Yes. Yeah, it's very much being worked on. We have a program called the Option 5 program, and we have tried to ramp it up as best we can. The Option 5 program is a waiver. There's a bunch of different options that the director, myself of DCGS, can sign to allow someone to become a law enforcement officer. Option 5 is out-of-state laterals coming to Virginia. We have what's called an Option 5 Academy, where people that meet certain criteria, and I'm not saying that those two individuals would have met that criteria. It sounds like the executive level person may not have met that criteria, but if they meet certain criteria, they can go through the academy. The two academies that we've kind of fallen down into as the two academies that hold them are Virginia Beach and Fairfax. They're doing an amazing job. It brings in out-of-state or federal officers, or sometimes in some cases military police, puts them through about 6 to 7, maybe 8 weeks at the most academy. What we found, and then puts them right into the field training with whatever locality hires them. We're going to continue to work with these Option 5 academies. We believe they have not resulted in the same numbers we were hoping, but we've held about 5 academies now and gotten about 55 or so, I think it's right around there, 55 or so new officers through those 5 academies. We're hoping they grow a little bit. But again, I think the big reason people don't want to come to Virginia isn't, and to lateral to Virginia, is they don't want to go through a full academy again. Some of them just don't want it to be that boot camp mentality. You know what I mean? We have found that 7 to 8 weeks, in fact, the surveys we've done with the recruits that have gone through to become Virginia LEOs, they think it was great. They thought it was just the right amount of time. It was the perfect amount of training. That's been their analysis of it. That's what we've gotten from the recruits. What we found is they weren't concerned about the length of time to go through an entire new academy. They were concerned about having guys spitting in their face because they were screaming at them and telling them to drop and give me 20 push-ups and being called an idiot and told to run back and forth up a hallway. That's what they didn't want to go through. But the time of the academy was not much of a concern for them. But anyways, the Option 5 Academy is what we do have. The biggest problem with that is a lot of jurisdictions, we've really had it come down to 2 academies, Virginia Beach and Fairfax. The biggest expense for a lot of localities has been housing their people for that 6 to 8 weeks, in some cases all the way across the Commonwealth of Virginia, at Virginia Beach or Fairfax. But they've done a really good job, and we feel that they probably are in a position to provide the best outcome for that 6 or 7 week academy. I hope that answered your question. I probably went in a lot of directions, but with that. But happy to talk to you more about it if I didn't. So, all right. I'm going to be around the rest of this evening. I look forward to having a cold one with you guys on the patio tonight. And so if you have any more questions about stuff like that, please come and grab me. That's what I'm here for. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you again, Mr. Miller. I greatly appreciate it. Next, we'll be talking about Justice Involved Services Program. So if I could get Ms. Donna Harrison, Housing and Criminal Justice Director, Virginia Department of Veteran Services, Virginia Veterans and Family Support Program, to come and tell us a little bit about her.
Thank you. That was a mouthful. Thank you.
It was, but it's
Thank
okay.
All right. I know I'm standing between you and break, so this is a great time for me to speak, right? So it'll be fast. It'll be fast. So 15 minutes. So as mentioned, thank you for Virginia Sheriff's Association for having me here. I'm happy to be here, happy to talk to you guys about Justice Involved Veterans, some of the services that we have for Justice Involved Veterans, and what you can do to help identify veterans. I'm the Housing and Criminal Justice Director with Virginia Department of Veteran Services, so we work closely with our veterans, military service members, and families. And is this the clicker right here?
Probably is.
Let's see. All right, awesome. So I manage all of our policy and programming for veterans in the criminal justice system and veterans experiencing homelessness. And I always like to differentiate between Virginia Department of Veteran Services and the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs. So how many of you heard of the VA? Okay, and how many of you heard of Department of Veteran Services? Not as many, right? So we are the State Department. We work closely with the VA, which is the federal department, and I can talk a little bit about how we partner together, but there is a little bit of difference. And so we provide services and connections for veterans who are military service members, veterans, individuals in Armed Force Reserves and National Guard. So we help connect them to benefits, we help connect them to supportive services, we can help connect veterans to housing. And the VA does that as well. The difference is, and I'll talk a little bit about our service line, I'm housed under Virginia Veteran and Family Support, and so we are usually working with the most vulnerable veterans, veterans that have a substance use need, mental health need, veterans that need housing. And so our service line serves veterans regardless of their discharge status, regardless of whether they're in National Guard or reserves, and that's a little bit different than the VA rights, because sometimes the VA has restrictions on who they can serve, although we work closely with the VA, and sometimes we are serving them together. So we have other service lines. I think you guys get a copy of this PowerPoint, so feel free to go to our website. I don't have time today to go through every service line, but we do have all of those services. Some of you, how many veterans are in the room? Awesome, thank you. Thank you for your service. So I'm the daughter of a veteran and a sister of a veteran, and so we really are here to serve our veterans and military service members and their families. And so our Justice Involved Services program is housed within Virginia Veteran and Family Support, which we call VVFS. So our mission mirrors Virginia Veteran and Family Support in that we serve veterans throughout that criminal justice continuum. So whether they're going through veteran treatment dockets or courts, how many of you heard of veteran treatment courts? Okay, so a few. So veteran treatment courts are like drug courts. They're fashioned sort of the same way. They are diversion opportunities to connect individuals directly to treatment. And so there's a lot of partners at the table, including law enforcement and jail staff that sit on those teams in order to connect veterans to services. We also serve veterans that are incarcerated in jail or prison. So if you have veterans in your jail, especially if they're getting ready to discharge, we need to know about them, and the VA needs to know about them, and I'll talk to you about how you can do that and how you can make those connections. Normally, we're working with them about 120 days prior to release, but I know with jails, I worked in criminal justice for, I'm probably gonna date myself, like 29 years now, so I know what it's like, but we need to know about them as soon as possible. In local jails, I know you don't always know a release date. Sometimes they're only there a day. Sometimes they're only there a weekend. Sometimes they're only there for a couple of years. So it helps us to know about them. We also work with veterans that are on probation or parole supervision as well. So this is how you reach out to us. I'll have brochures, I'll have my cards. We have a request form that we use. You don't need to use that. You can just send me an email. We have jails that contact us all the time. They just send me an email and say, hey, I got a veteran. Usually I'll ask for a little more information. You can contact our email address or my email address for our program. We also have veteran justice specialists that work directly with this population. So they are working with veterans on the ground. Sometimes they're doing an intake in your jails. Sometimes they're just doing a phone call with that veteran if we can arrange it through some of your staff. We do this all the time. We work closely with DOC as well. So I always say our veteran justice specialists are the people that do the real work on the ground. I'm just the mouthpiece a lot of times, but they're doing the real work. So their caseload consists of veterans on veteran treatment dockets, individuals that are incarcerated in jail or prison, and folks that are on probation or parole supervision. And so a little bit about what they do. They are doing an intake form, they do a needs assessment, and then they're trying to connect those veterans as much as they can pre-release to services. If you have veterans, though, that are gonna be incarcerated a while, we can connect them to our benefits team. Our benefits service staff work with veterans while they're incarcerated to connect them to disability compensation. Veterans can receive disability compensation while they're incarcerated. It doesn't matter how long. And it's just a portion of it, but it helps, especially when it comes to discharge planning, especially when it comes to housing, and sometimes they can apportion that to their families if they're eligible. So I get referrals all the time from the jails when we have veterans that need that connection to benefits. Our benefits team can connect them to that for free. And say they got denied by the VA, we have appeals attorneys as well that work with them for free on their benefits claims. This is helpful to some of you as veterans as well. So sometimes we'll come out to facilities and talk to the staff and your veterans that are in your care. So our veteran justice specialists work one-on-one. They also do things like information sessions. So if you happen to know all of your veterans are housed together, which we recommend as a best practice, or you know that you have veterans that need some information, we can come out and talk to your veterans that are housed in your jails. So they do those info sessions. They also do resource fairs. I know some of the jails have resource fairs. We'll come in, set up a table. So switching gears a little bit from our veteran justice specialists and justice health services to the VA's Veterans Reentry Cert Services. So how many of you have heard of this, VRSS? That's what I thought. So although we are not the VA, we, along with the U.S. Supreme Court Office of the Executive Secretary and the VA, work on promoting this service. This is a free web-based service that you can use to identify your veterans. Asking the question, have you ever served in the U.S. military, is one way to identify them. Do not ask, are they a veteran? That is not the best way to ask because some veterans don't think they're veterans. Some of them feel like, well, I never served in combat, or I didn't serve during this particular era. When you ask the question correctly, sometimes you'll get an answer, but most of the time, a lot of our veterans are not self-identifying to you because fear of shame, fear of benefits being taken away, some myths that are out there, or just mistrust in the system. So VRSS is the best practice, one of the best practices to identify veterans. We highly recommend our jails use it. We only have 10 jails using it in the whole state, and we really want to get more jails on board. Department of Corrections already uses it. They were previously identifying about 2,000 veterans, and they doubled that when they used VRSS. So it is really key that we get our jails on board. So we did have a YouTube video, but I won't, in the interest of time, I don't think I'll go through that. If you're interested in VRSS and you'd like a training, our team, along with the VA and the U.S. Supreme Court Office of the Executive Secretary, can set up that training for you. We always ask that you bring your IT to the table. It's a simple, some jails have used their IT to connect it directly to their system so that as they run reports, they can automatically have that information downloaded to the VRSS. It's checked against the DoD, Department of Defense Identity Repository, so it's secured, and the information is scrubbed as soon as you pull it. The information you get back is yes or no, someone served in the military. The information also goes to the VA Justice Outreach Team, which is like our veteran justice specialists, and they get more information about that veteran. And it allows them to connect with your jail and connect veterans to healthcare or homeless services. So I highly encourage, if you want to know more about VRSS, I'm skipping around, if you want to know more about VRSS, please reach out to us. And so kind of how this helps all of you is provide you with really accurate information about veterans that are in your jail. It helps facilitate that connection to the VA and other community resources. It really accelerates veteran enrollment. If you have a veteran coming out who needs a connection to medical and mental health care, the VA staff can come in and enroll them prior to release in a lot of instances. So I really encourage you and log into VRSS. It's a really simple enrollment process, and it's a great way to kind of get your veterans identified. And so that collaboration piece that we do with the VA, sometimes the VA is enrolling them in healthcare, and we are maybe helping with housing. We do have a homeless subfund that we use to house individuals, veterans. We work closely with our VA homeless services providers and our community providers, so we have a small pot of money that we can use to help with security deposits and rent. So that's something that's a way that we kind of collaborate with the VA. So it really opens the door to benefits. You can also create targeted programming for your veterans. Some of our jails that use this realized, hey, we have a decent amount of veterans in here. Maybe we need to think about a pod, or maybe we need to think about bringing some folks in. This is how this helps you in order to not only manage your veterans that are in your care, but also connect them to services so that they're successful once they get released. So it's really a great way for you to get some in-reach and for us to do some outreach to your veterans. There's also a way, I know in one of the jurisdictions, they logged on to VRSS, created a dorm, and then eventually they ended up creating a veteran treatment court or a veteran treatment docket. They talked to their judge, they talked to their Commonwealth attorney and realized, hey, we have these veterans here that could potentially be connected to treatment, and we don't even need to have them in the jail. And so it was a diversion opportunity so that they could get those veterans out of their jail and into the community. So that's a way to save money, but it's also a way to just get the veterans the assistance that they need. So I'll skip through these because these are our training slides that we use for VRSS. The VA Justice Outreach Program, they are the VA staff's justice team, and so they're the ones that can enroll a veteran. They can check to see if they're VA eligible. The way we cross-refer is that if they're not eligible, a lot of times they'll send them our way. We have a way to pay for treatment in some instances as well with our fund that we have, so that's how we kind of work together. All right, so what jails can do? Ask the question every time. Have you ever served in the U.S. military? Not, are you a veteran? Ask it at multiple points, whether that's at intake, at booking, classification, at discharge planning, making sure you're asking the question at multiple points while they're in your custody. Using VRSS so you have a sure way to identify those veterans. Start discharge planning as early as possible. Even if you know they're leaving tomorrow, let us know about it so we can help connect that veteran. Collaborate with your community partners, whether it's our agency, the VA, or veteran services organizations that can do some in-reach. We can do virtual if we need to. Just connect with us so we can get the veterans connected. And then if you have veteran treatment dockets, participate in them. They need folks from the jail at the table. If you want to start a docket, be that champion, be that voice. I think that's all I have. That's all for me. And I think I have 2 minutes left to spare. Any questions? Questions? Oh, go ahead. Sure. You mean veterans in the community? So we do. Usually when we see those, sometimes they're coming through our behavioral health dockets. Sometimes they'll come through us through that way. But because we are in the community as well, sometimes we are working with those veterans too. It just depends on if we know about them. So if the TDO team or ECO team tells us about it, then usually we have a way to connect them. A lot of times we're working with the VA to get them connected. If they need like treatment through the VA, then we'll connect them that way. Does that answer your question at all? Okay. Yes. Yes. Yeah. So other parts of our team, like our resource specialists, they connect closely with some of our community partners. So we're statewide. We only have 5 veteran justice specialists. We have resource specialists all over. So usually they have a lot of tools in their toolbox. So it's not just veteran-specific organizations. Sometimes it's reentry organizations, but I'm pretty sure our Winchester team works with them as well. Yeah. Any other questions? All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you for all that you do to serve our veterans, particularly our veterans that are incarcerated in our jails. Feel free to reach out to us if you have questions or if you need a connection to services. Happy to help you. Thanks. Thank you. No worries. Thank you. No worries.
Guess what? I think you can take a break. But before you go, did I tell you that Medico sponsored our lunch earlier? Okay, I just wanted to make sure, because I don't want to forget anybody. So the whistle will blow at about 3 o'clock. So if you would come back, because risk management and coverage for sheriffs will be the next thing on the agenda. So have fun.